I just told you this, but I want to just let the listener know, like, I've struggled to find someone to talk about exercise on the podcast, even though I know how good it is and like I mean, even in my own story, like how vital it is for my own like mental health and well-being and all of those things. But so I'm so excited to talk to you about your body, your book, Move the Body, Heal the Mind. And you study the effects of physical activity on brain function.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, like kind of what got you into this? And then I'd really be interested to talk about a little bit about like some of the things that, we are in a sedentary culture, right? And we think, oh, we'll get some steps in or whatever, but like we need, anyway, this is a whole, let me just ask you questions.
I'm excited for this conversation too.
Yeah. So what got you interested in connecting exercise and the brain function?
Sure. Yeah. It's a bit of a personal story, actually. So, I was studying graduate school. I was studying neuroscience and trying to figure out how the brain represents us as people, who we are. And it was in my late 20s, and it became very clear to me that, something wasn't quite right with my own mind. And I was struggling with some pretty severe anxiety and some intrusive thoughts that turned out to be like symptoms of OCD. And so, sorry, my dog is like having a conniption. Let me just get her here. She's there she is, Cheerio. Hi, Cheerio.
Listeners, you'll have to go on the YouTube channel to see how cute Doggy-O is here. She's licking Jennifer's face now.
Who's a therapy dog. We can edit this one out, but she is pretty cute.
No, I think we're keeping it.
She was like, okay, what are you doing? Okay, so yeah, so it was at the time, it was in my 20s, and okay, baby, I'm gonna put you down. I was having a pretty rough time in grad school, and I went to the school physician, and they recommended antidepressants, which I was pretty reluctant to take at the time. And a friend recommended their rusty old road bike, and much to my amazement, the movement, the bike rides soothed my mind. And it really sparked a shift, not just in my personal life, where, prior to that point, I hadn't really been active. I was never an athlete. And so from that point forward, I really shifted my personal life to include movement as my medicine in my daily life, but also a shift in my research. So from the fundamentals of neuroscience to really understanding how exercise changes the brain. And then from there, I launched the NeuroFit Lab, where, as you mentioned, we study the effects of exercise on the brain.
It's so fascinating. I mean, that whole piece about the exercise is a huge piece in my own story too. Like when I was in high school, I was, I had like all this conflict with my father at home. I was hanging out with kids who were, like doing drugs and partying. I was partying. And one of the things that kind of started to turn me around from this was a friend started running, and she was like, we were both like smoking cigarettes and like stuff. And I was like, man, if she can do that, I can do that. And so I started running, and I wasn't very good. I just did like I would like run 2 blocks, walk a block, run 2 blocks, walk a block. And then, but the running ended up being this like precursor to a mindfulness practice for me, where it really just like helped me to be like stronger. I just helped me to like kind of start to make those choices that were healthier for myself and my life, and do different things than like kind of this sort of downward trajectory that a lot of my friends were going on, and was this like stabilizer. And I still run. It's like amazing how I call it kind of getting my yayas out. Like for me, like that anxiety, like that energy of that, getting that out. No offense to all Greek mothers out there. not that kind of yaya.
Yeah, I hear you. And actually, so I'm just getting back into running after the pandemic really kind of took the wind out of my sail, like literally. And I had been sitting quite a lot. The gyms were closed here. I'm up in Canada, and that affected me. So I kept running, but my like the imbalances in my gait really got exaggerated, and then I fell and got injured. So I'm just getting back to running, and I'm doing this run walk thing, and I
Mhm.
actually really love it. I might just like stick with that. So it's like, really gradual, really about just like moving and feeling the movement. But
Mhm.
one thing I love about exercise is it's like a catalyst for mindfulness. Like
Mhm.
you're paying attention to your body, you're paying attention to your breath, you're in the moment, especially when you're just getting back into it, right? It's
Mhm.
like, oh, all these sensations are interesting, and it brings you out of your head and right into your body. And I just find that it really, for me, it's a catalyst. But the research also suggests that there's a strong association between people who are more physically active and people who are more mindful. So
Mhm.
they do really go hand in hand.
Well, yeah, I mean, like a lot of mindfulness is proprioception, right? Like that
Mhm.
sense of feeling in your body, right? And if we're just sedentary, right, we're just kind of living out of our brains,
That's
we're
right.
not feeling into our body as much, right? Like we're not feeling all those sensations and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I would assume there's a pretty strong link. That's cool that the research has
Hmm.
shown that.
Hmm.
Um, well, you talk about, you know, some of the things that we have everything in our life is like made for us to be like just more comfortable, and our society is just telling us to like be more and more comfortable. And like it used to, it's so interesting, I think, about exercise, even though it has so many benefits, which I'm sure you could tell us so many more, but that it used to be just part of life, right? Like it used to kind of like in a way, I
Hmm.
think that, you know, mindfulness in a way, like now we train our minds, right? And we know we should be training our bodies, but it used to be like that, we just moved as part of life. Like that was, we didn't have to have like exercise that was separate, right? Is that one of the reasons that it's just hard for people to exercise, just because our survival mechanism is to conserve energy? Is this
Hmm.
what's kind of going on with us?
That's it. Yeah, we've effectively engineered out movement from our day. We have a car, we can drive to the grocery store and get our food. And the brain evolved at a fundamentally different time when we had to expend a lot of energy to hunt and gather our food. And so you're right. The brain evolved to conserve energy when it didn't have to use it for survival. And today, I mean, that's most of the time, right? We rarely have to move for survival purposes. And so the brain is designed to kind of keep us lazy, keep us energy conservative. And so it goes out of its way to avoid expending energy. So it sees voluntary exercise nowadays as an extravagant expense, and it will protest like, do you even have time? Do you have energy to exercise? We've all heard this, right? I mean,
Mhm.
this is a constant chatter in our head when we are thinking about exercising. How do we get off the couch and out the door, right? And that's a real thing. That is the brain to blame. So certainly not alone in that. And but fortunately there's some things we can do to sort of overcome that, to kind of get past that inertia, the biological inertia that's sort of built in. And there's simple things like, first of all, just sort of making a plan ahead of time. And this is, for obvious reasons, this works because you carve out the time to move and to have exercise in your life so that your calendar doesn't fill up with other appointments. But it also acts because when you detail out all the things that you're going to do, like what are you going to do, when, where, with whom, and all the details are figured out ahead of time, you don't need to make any decisions in the moment.
Mm.
And decisions, like making decisions, drains our willpower. It drains our like brain power. So that when we try to, overcome that biological inertia, which requires logic and rationality, we have less to do it. So if you plan ahead, you save that brain power, and it makes it a little bit easier to start moving.
Well, I mean, we had Lisa Feldman Barrett on, who's an expert in the brain, and she talks about like the body budget. So yeah, I mean, that would be using that willpower, would be using that body budget, and then the body budget then goes to the exercise itself. Okay, so we want to plan it ahead. Anything else?
So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the fundamental, like let's do that first. But then there's ways that you can kind of hack the brain to make exercising more enjoyable and more like the brain more willing to do it. So a few things you can do. One is really a fun trick. It's just to convince the brain that resources are plenty, or just remind the brain resources are plenty. It's this, this research is so funny. You take a sip of sugary drink and you swish it in your mouth, and you don't even have to drink it. You could just spit it out. And this is enough, just, the presence of carbohydrates in your mouth is enough to convince the lazy brain that resources are plenty. And so it's like, okay, let's do this. And the exercise itself feels less effortful, especially at that beginning when it's hardest.
Wow.
Which is super fun. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to try this. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So even like a stick of gum would work, put in a stick of gum, chew it up.
Even like sugar-free gum?
Yeah. Well, the trick is sugar-free. It has to be real sugar. Okay, that seems to be the research. Yeah.
That probably had to be real. I'm gonna be buying bubble yum for bubble. Honey, this is a health product for me now.
or just swish some kombucha in your mouth. That's probably enough. Yeah, and other things, if the sugar is sort of not a thing, even just listening to music, and maybe when you're working out, you prefer to listen to podcasts. So you could listen to music even before you're working out to kind of prime the brain, get it ready. And the reason why, if you're listening to your favorite music, this releases dopamine, even just listening to music. And this dopamine is going to stimulate the reward pathway, and it's going to start linking that rewarding feeling experience with exercise, so that you're going to be associating that with like some feel good feelings.
Okay. Well, those are pretty easy. I mean, that's not that hard. Schedule it ahead of time. Swish some sugary drink, or just take a sip, I suppose, and then listening to music. And you talk about so many reasons. I mean, we kind of jump to like kind of the how to, but there's so many reasons why we should be doing this and why we should be prioritizing this. You talked about your own story with mental health, but there are a lot of reasons. You talk about that physical inactivity is a big risk factor for dementia too, right? As well as other things. Can you tell us about some of the things, like scare me a little?
Scary.
Like, why?
Okay. I think the scariest thing is there are only 3 degrees of separation between sitting too much and dementia.
What?
Yeah. And that seems like weird to think about, right? And midlife is the time when we need to think about this most. So not later. And the reason is, when we sit for long periods of time, it starves the brain of the vital nutrients it needs. Less oxygenated blood flow. This causes the body to go into hibernation mode. It starts damaging the blood vessels that feed the brain. The brain cells starve, then they break down. This can lead to things like vascular dementia, which makes it hard for us to focus and concentrate, but also like perform, make decisions and perform many activities of the day. And then eventually that could lead to Alzheimer's disease, where it really affects our memory. So that to me is the scariest. And the thing that scares people the most is there's no drug that cures dementia. This is like, it really is something that we need to get ahead of. And research from my lab shows that physical inactivity contributes to your dementia risk as much as your genetics. So
Oh, wow.
you could be born with a healthy set of genes, but if you're not active, you're increasing your risk of getting dementia as much as if you were genetically predisposed, which,
Ooh.
that's in your hands, that's controllable. And so just by simply moving more, we can reduce our risk, which I think, we can spin it positive, like, because that's a really
Mhm.
positive thing we can do. It's scary, but we do have way more control over it than we think.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity, right? I mean, I'm seeing so many, it's interesting. My uncle, my auntie Barbara, she was actually, she was a very sedentary person. She had an alcoholic. She died of dementia, but now his second wife is now dealing with dementia too. And
Mm.
I'm just feel so sad for him. But the whole idea of is scary for all of us, right? And to have this then opportunity to say to our family, to our children, to get ahead of a problem that might be put in their laps, right? Like our
Mhm.
health, right? I'm thinking of my neighbor who doesn't want to exercise, but is a big people pleaser. This could be a good argument
Yeah.
in
Well, and I
the
think a lot
neighborhood.
of people, they leave themselves last, right?
Yeah,
So they see it
exactly.
as like a selfish thing. Oh, I got to do all these things for everybody else in my life. And I think that we need to change that narrative, because we're not our best selves when we're not taking care of ourselves, and we need to carve out that time for self-care, for to get the yayas out, or to get the stress out, to feel good about ourselves in our own skin, and then we can be an incredible support and help to everyone else in our life. So I think that, yeah, we need to rethink that this is an investment in our ability to give and care and be, the wonderful people we want to be.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I like to say that like self-care is not selfish. It's actually our responsibility, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's our responsibility to show up. It's so fascinating. How does exercise help? We both talked about, right, how exercise helps with anxiety.
Mhm.
How does it help with anxiety? What's happening there?
Yeah, so when we exercise, there's a resiliency factor that's released in the brain called neuropeptide Y. And this resiliency factor helps to calm our fear center called the amygdala. It's the brain
Mhm.
region that's like hypervigilant, constantly scanning the environment for threats, but also can be triggered by our thinking, and worries. And so this neuropeptide Y can be released by light to moderate activity. So, which means you could be going for a brisk walk, and that would be enough to increase neuropeptide Y. And one thing that's really interesting is that neuropeptide Y seems to protect the brain from trauma. So, when we look at people who have gone to war, for example, some of them will return with post traumatic stress disorder, but some won't. And the ones who are protected are the ones who have higher levels of neuropeptide Y. And so
Huh.
we can build more of that resiliency factor with exercise, which I think is amazing. And then we don't need to exercise vigorously for that. We can just exercise at a light to moderate. Now, like most people with anxiety, they have this anxiety sensitivity. And what does that mean? Well, it means like a fear of fear itself. So once you
Mm.
start sort of noticing those symptoms of anxiety, like heart racing, difficulty breathing, difficulty thinking, sometimes those can be like, oh my God, though they can make you even more anxious, right?
Mhm.
And so you could see how this can feed itself as a vicious cycle to leading to like escalation and panic attack, right?
Mhm.
And so for individuals who are prone to this, most of them don't like exercising. Most of them will avoid vigorous exercising, like the plague. But the vigorous exercise, just even like little tidbits of it, is what they need to help regulate that response to the anxiety. So it works like kind of like exposure therapy.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
they're afraid of those symptoms. So let's just second, do your wellness walk for like 10 minutes and then a burst at the end, just 10 seconds or as long as you can go, as fast as you can go, and feel your heart race. Feel
Mm.
it difficult to breathe, and then notice it come back to baseline. Notice it come
Mm.
back and realize you're safe, and
Mhm.
then do that again and realize you're safe. And so in this safe space of exercise, we can learn that those symptoms are not as scary as we previously thought, and then they have less power over us. So it's an interesting way. I have it in the book. It's called the Fear Buster workout, and it's designed to take advantage of this like build up neuropeptide Y with the wellness walk, and then a burst at the end to get that exposure to the symptoms that may be causing us more anxiety. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's fascinating. I mean,
Mm.
that makes so much sense, right? Like you just from a mindfulness perspective, like you're like feeling the feelings in your body. And and then this also goes back to what Lisa Feldman Barrett teaches, right? About like that we have sensations, and then there's like a continuum, right? There where we have sensations where we have like more energized kind of sensations and calmer sensations, and then we have positive affect and we have negative affect, and you could kind of grid that all out. And when we what you're saying is like if we have anxiety sensitivity, like it's that those sensations trigger that fear in us. We don't have any positive affect kind of associated with that, but the exercise is a way to kind of feel it and know you're safe, right? Like you just said, and have that like understand that this is a sensation in my body. This is just nothing to be afraid of. It's just a sensation in my body.
Mhm. Yeah, it's reframing, and then you shift your quadrant. So you're activated, but it's no longer negative in the
Mm-hmm.
affect, it's positive in affect. And so it's still the same activation, but now you're seeing it in a more positive light. So it's like reframing the stress response. And this has been shown to be
Huh.
extremely powerful at impacting the effect that stress has on us. Like stress in and of
Mm.
itself is not bad. Like it
Mhm.
it alerts us, it gets us ready, activated to help us deal with the situation at hand. The problem is how we view that stress. A lot of the time when we see it as negative or having an overly negative impact on our health, research shows that that's when it's most damaging to our health, is when we have that negative connotation or negative perception on it. So it's not stress that's good or bad, it's our thinking that makes it that way.
That's fascinating. And yeah, and that negative association leads to other negative, it's kind of like we're in that sort of negative affect zone and can lead to
Yeah.
other things like my kid is doing this behavior to get me or to get back at me or
Yeah.
whatever. Like we're starting, like we're feeding into our kind of innate negativity bias.
Hmm.
Like, because we know that when we have more stress, we yell more and we're more
Yeah.
reactive, but like it's probably like means, it's like more of that negative associated stress rather than the positive associated stress of like that physical stress of like running super fast down the street.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is playing into the anxiety piece, right? So when stress is high and it's negative, that amygdala, the fear center, is on and it's active. And so we're no longer responding to the situation at hand. We're responding to our own vulnerability. So that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're not our best self. We're angry, we're defensive, we're negative. We're viewing everything through this lens of vulnerability. And that's when it really becomes destructive. And so we can get ahead of that. We can kind of start you know, to heal that and to manage our reaction to stress, using exercise, because exercise is technically a stressor, and so
Mm-hmm.
it does activate the stress system, but like I said, in this safe space that we control how long we go, we control how high it goes. It's really is a way to like essentially like tone the stress system, like you're flexing your stress muscle, and then that stress muscle grows stronger so that you can tolerate heavier stress loads without being so reactive, and then you're quicker to recover, less feelings of vulnerability and like, the ugliness of stress that it brings out in us. We can stay kind of calm and more
This is so
mindful.
fascinating. I'm gonna have to share this with my husband. We he's started like lifting weights and things like that because I started like doing weightlifting. I'm like really into body pump. You probably
I
know
love
that.
weightlifting.
I
This is like
love
my
body pump,
favorite thing right now.
like clean and press. Like I'm doing all these like badass like weightlifting
Right?
moves, which I think are super fun. Anyway, but he's gotten into it. He likes this guy on YouTube, Funk Roberts, which I think is hilarious. But he's doing this weightlifting and he's cool. It's cool. Like he's feeling better. He's like all this stuff. But sometimes he has challenges with anxiety. And one of the things he really avoids is intense cardiovascular, anything that feels intense cardiovascularly, like where he goes, like he walks every day all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, honey, well, what about, and he's starting to learn some benefits of like kind of pushing to your edge cardiovascularly, at least like maybe once a week or something. But this sounds like that would help, that like what you're talking about, that reframing of the stress response.
100%. And if he can even just add in a few sprints, even at the end of his walk, this is going to expose him to because it sounds like he might have anxiety sensitivity, where it's like that that it's maybe he's able to manage the symptoms until he feels them, and then it kind of can get to him a bit more. So yeah, the quick bursts, it doesn't have to be like a full out vigorous run. It can be just like, feeling your heart up and down. And the resistance training will help with that too, right? Because when you're like, it's short, right? You'll do a set and by the end, your heart rate is elevated and you feel it, but you just drop the weights and it's done. And so I bet as he does this more and more, he's going to be able to transition that into the cardiovascular fitness, because now he knows, okay, my heart rate can be up and I'm still okay. It's not scary. Right?
Oh my God, this is so fascinating. I'm gonna have to like play in this interview. This is so cool. There's also, you have some research, you talk about the research on exercising cravings and addiction. So tell me about that. What's going on there?
Yeah. So I talked about dopamine as this stimulator, the neurochemical that stimulates the reward system. And dopamine is, the brain needs a certain amount of dopamine, and it's like a currency for the brain. It's a reward currency where, the naturally rewarding things we need for survival are rewarded and reinforced through the system. So like thinking food, sex, and exercise, they're all rewarded through the dopamine system. But so are drugs of abuse. But they essentially hijack it, and they create dopamine levels to supernatural levels that the brain was never designed to deal with. And so what ends up happening is that there's too much dopamine, and this disrupts the brain's balance, and it essentially locks down the reward system. So the dopamine's there, but it can't bind to its receptor, so it can't stimulate this feelings of pleasure. This leads to tolerance with drugs, but it also leads to a lack of enjoyment for the simpler things in life, like food and sex and exercise. And so when someone is trying to maybe stop drinking or stop drugs, what happens is that sobriety starts slowly, the reward system starts to open up again. And this is such a healing power, a self-healing power of the brain. But exercise can speed that up. So it does take a long time. It will heal, but it can take a long time. And exercise helps to speed that healing process by repopulating the dopamine receptors increasing dopamine naturally to sort of the natural levels, but also making everything a little bit more sensitive, so it's like opening it up faster. It's really powerful. And in the book, I talk about how it should be a mandatory part of all treatment programs, like a structured, supervised exercise program. And when we do it with friends and do it with like a social group, one thing that's really beneficial there is like for a lot of people struggling with like addictions, they often have friends who feed into that addiction, right? And when you stop, like let's say you stop drinking or you stop using the drug, it's almost like it's difficult to be friends with the same friends, and you have to create a whole new social circle. So the exercise friends that you make from like a run club or a weightlifting club, or though they can also provide you with the social support that you're maybe missing from your life. So yeah, it's really a powerful and really beautiful way that exercise helps to heal the mind.
It's so interesting. Like, as you talk about sort of that social piece, I think about parents, right? And a lot of parents who, one of the big problems right now is isolation. I mean, especially since the pandemic, but it has been for a long time because of just our nuclear family and the way we live. And we're, oftentimes there's like one person. I mean, probably you live this, right? You were a single parent, you said, one person home with a child, maybe that, and you have to work and so that piece about like kind of finding a running club or a walking club or whatever it is to exercise and get that social interaction at the same time is brilliant. I mean, for me, at the start of the new year, I was like freaking out because I was too isolated from the pandemic and the high numbers that were happening here in the US of the COVID-19. And so I found a running partner, so I could go running and like at least make sure I see this, maybe a couple times a week, like be with another person that I can just like, so I mean, there's so many benefits in that way. And also that person, like having someone else to exercise with just makes you go further and longer.
Oh yeah,
all of
it's so much more fun too, right?
Yeah, so much more
It
fun.
can be a lot more fun. Yeah. The social benefit of exercise is just it's such a powerful thing, especially when we think about like lacking motivation. And this sort of lack of motivation and this malaise can come from like symptoms of depression, even like mild symptoms of depression. And even though exercise is super beneficial for boosting our mood, that depression can kind of act as a barrier in and of itself to prevent us from going. But this social piece, this like accountability partner, this exercise buddy, actually really, really does help keep us motivated and exercising.
Okay, so let's talk about sleep, because I used to have trouble sleeping, and man, since since I ran in my life, like I've just never have trouble. As long as I know that if I can get like a good workout that day, I sleep well, and I keep, I don't have caffeine after 11. But anyway,
I'm with you here.
exercise and sleep. This is pretty strong, huge evidence for the benefits there, right?
Yeah. So exercise does some pretty awesome things to help promote sleep. So the first is it breaks down this cellular energy called ATP to produce adenosine. And adenosine, as it builds, it's a natural sleep aid. So when it gets so high, we just sleep. Like it's just like natural sleep aid. And it also, we can use exercise if we use it consistently. We can use it to sort of reset our biological clock. Because sometimes this can get out of whack, right? Especially if like you're up late one night and then you have to get up early with the kids, for example. Like it may be like your time zone shifting, but you're actually just at home and it's just the schedule shifting, right? And we can use exercise to help realign our brain time with the real time by either exercising at the same time every day, or if you need to shift it. So if you're finding you're going to bed too early, you can exercise in the evening. If you're needing to wake up earlier, you can, exercise in the morning or afternoon, and this will help
Oh,
reshift your circadian rhythm. Pretty awesome.
so that's fascinating. Okay, so if we, there's like a kind of what I'm hearing you say is there's an after effect of the exercise, right? Where you've up leveled your energy, and then there's kind of like an afterglow. Whereas like if you want to be going to sleep at 10 o'clock, you should not be exercising at 7 o'clock, right? Like that's going to keep you up
No,
later.
actually, no, that's kind of a
No,
myth. Yeah.
is it?
So exercising, well, it'll help shift the clock a little bit
Okay.
later, but it won't keep you awake. So if 7 o'clock is your only time that you can exercise, do it, because it will likely not interfere with your sleep unless it's so vigorous that your heart is elevated just before you go to bed.
Oh,
So, and this, I mean, this can happen with anxiety too. If we're having like anxious thoughts that like cause our heart rate to elevate, that's one of the reasons why it's hard for us to fall asleep at night. And the same goes with exercise. So if we're vigorously exercising to the point that our heart's elevated while we're trying to go to bed, it'll take us longer to fall asleep. So yeah, so it's okay to exercise in the evening if that's when you can fit it in. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't want it to disrupt my sleep, but it won't. It'll just it'll help promote deeper sleep at night, and it may shift it slightly, but it will help you sleep deeper at night. It won't disrupt it.
this is so cool. All right. So minimum viable dose, right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
talk about what that is here. So,
yeah.
dear listener, you might be here saying, I haven't been, maybe I've been just like going for a walk once in a while. I haven't really been exercising. I want to. What's a minimum viable dose, Jennifer?
Okay. Every 30 minutes, stand up for 2-minute movement break.
Hmm.
This
Wow.
is enough to increase focus, creativity, to help restore blood flow to that prefrontal cortex that we need to be productive at work. Yeah. So if you haven't been moving much, start there,
Huh.
and then just 5 minute a 5 minute movement break we've shown helps reduce mind wandering. So, sometimes you're like trying to focus on a meeting and you're like, what's for lunch? What's for dinner? Like or
Mhm.
when's that next vacation? So 5 minutes of this can be like jumping jacks, high knees, but it doesn't have to be vigorous. It could also be just stretching. And this helps us to stay focused. A 10-minute self-paced walk has been shown to boost creativity.
Hmm.
3 30-minute brisk walks, like in a week, that's not that much time. We've shown in my lab reduces anxiety. That's
Wow.
also the typical prescription tested for reducing depression.
Hmm.
And in some people, that works better than antidepressant drugs.
That's amazing. Just 3 30-minute walks a
Mhm.
week. That's it.
Yeah, we're
It's
not
amazing.
talking about a lot. Yeah, it is amazing. And people, so it turns out like we have these physical activity guidelines for physical health, but for mental health, it's much less than that.
Hmm.
And I think part of the reason is because we get the brain health benefits immediately after every single workout we do.
Hmm.
And that workout can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be vigorous um, to get the benefits.
Okay, but I know a thing about you, which is that you have done some 70 point you've competed in two Ironman competitions. So, are there now, okay, like I have a perception of an Ironman competition that sounds like is just
I
exhausting to
know.
my
What
brain.
is
But
this?
but but that is, maybe you could tell us exactly how much like of a lot of exercise that is. But is are there more benefits to that much exercise that you get, or like is there a place where it's too much stress on the body.
Hmm.
I mean, just curious
Yeah.
because I know you're person, that you've done these. So tell me about it.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I'll preface this by saying, I mean, so my marriage had broken down. This is back in 2017, and I had never done triathlon before. And I was just going to try. Like this is like the entry level triathlon. The whole thing said and done in 90 minutes, and it involves a
Oh,
swim, a bike, and a run. So try. That seems right. Like easy, okay? Or doable. Let's
yeah,
say
yeah,
doable.
yeah, yeah,
You could train for that and probably achieve it.
yeah.
And so that's where I started. And I amazed myself by winning the silver medal in my age group, which was like,
Wow.
wow, mind blown, because I had never won anything for a sporting event prior to that. But then it was like it gave me a lot of confidence that I needed to like leave that unhealthy marriage and start the next chapter of my life. And I just that dedication to that sport became really kind of a really important bridge into my new life. And
Hmm.
so I started with the try. It built up, longer and longer races. And then at some point I was like, hey, this would be a cool personal story to add to my book. So I'll talk about the research, but track the progress of this sport, the effects it's having on my own brain throughout the course of the book. So the book was supposed to end with my like heroic completion of the full Ironman, which is like the biggest of the races of all the triathlon.
What is it? Tell us what
I
it
know it in
includes.
kilometers. I don't know
Okay.
if
I'll have to do like
so
some
it's
Googling. Go ahead.
3.8 kilometers swim.
Cheers to miles.
You got the converter up?
I need a converter. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay. 3.8
3.8
kilometer.
kilometers swim.
That's 2.3 miles swim, 2.4 miles swim, everyone.
Outside in like a lake.
This is great because we've got everyone in all the different areas of the world covered will understand this. Okay, go ahead.
180-kilometer bike ride.
Oh God, that sounds like a lot.
It was a lot.
That's 111 miles or 112-mile bike ride. Holy schmoly.
And then, not done yet, a full marathon.
Oh, so that's like 24.6 miles. I know. Right. I think so. I think it's 24.6. Oh, my converter does not do miles.
I think in kilometers is 42.2 kilometers. So anyway, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do an official race, but that got canceled because of the pandemic. So my race was supposed to be August 2020, but it got canceled. And so how was I going to end this book? I'd almost written the whole thing. I had this whole journey. And so I planned my own Ironman, my own solo Ironman. And I did all of this on my own, well, with the support of my wonderful family and friends.
Oh my gosh.
And the whole thing took me 13 hours and 10 minutes to do. But yeah, I will tell you, I mean, aside from making it a really cool dramatic ending to my book,
yeah,
was it healthy for my body or mind? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I don't think I would recommend that because it was too much. But most people are not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the really, and will I do it again? Probably not. It didn't make me feel that good. And so that gets back to like the simple prescription of 30 minutes 3 times a week. Like that's where like a lot of the benefit can be gained. And so you don't have to be doing these intensive races. Like, I mean, there is something like those types of races are amazing because they can show you, they push you outside your comfort zone, like way outside your comfort zone, and really teach you about resiliency and what you're capable of. Mm-hmm. So I think the mental benefits are much stronger because now I feel like, oh yeah, I could do anything. I honestly, I like have this like confidence and assuredness that I never had before. Mm-hmm. But in terms of health and sustainability of that type of training, it's not for me. It's as a single
Mm.
mom who works full time. There was a lot of sacrifices had to be made, and it wasn't, it did disrupt my sleep on those really long runs. And so, I think that can show you, there is a point of too much, and that's also like stress. There is a point where there's
Mm.
too much stress and we reach a breaking point. But before that, it can still be healthy and
Mhm.
challenge us and cause us to adapt and grow into the stronger version of ourselves that we're seeking.
I would agree completely. I've been running now since I was like 16 and I'm 44, and I run 2 or 3 miles. Sometimes I'm run, like 4 times a week or
Yeah,
something, or 3 times a week. And for me, that piece about exercise every day, like I practice, I meditate almost every day, and I do some exercise every day. And like, I need all of those things,
me
like,
too. Me too.
you
First
know,
thing I
it,
do when I wake up, I do my meditation. And it can even just be 5 minutes. It's almost like
yeah.
the same thing with mindfulness. It's like
Mhm.
use, and they say this, right? Like get it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15,
Mhm.
whatever time you have, do that, and then try to do it throughout the day.
Mhm.
Right? Whether you're washing the dishes or whether you're walking to your car, you can have these moments of mindfulness. And
Mhm.
it almost is the same way you need to think about movement, right? Like whatever you can do today will be good enough, but you need to move. And like maybe instead of parking right by the door, you park at the back of the parking lot and you
Mhm.
take that movement to walk in, and just sort of sprinkling it in throughout the day. If that's all you can do that day,
Yeah.
it's like a different
Yeah.
way of thinking about it.
I agree. And I just want to like kind of point out to the listener, like, sometimes we have this idea in our culture that we should just be able to like sit around, like do our job, drive everywhere, watch TV, and we're going to just feel hunky dory after all of that. Like somehow, like we think that, but it actually, like, our bodies evolved to move, and like it takes some, and our bodies also evolved to have a negativity bias, like, so it takes some, and to be reactive, right? We have this nervous system, so it takes some effort. We're not just going to feel like grounded and peaceful and content in our bodies and energized without putting some of these practices in place, including movement and mindfulness.
Yeah, there's this really fascinating study that shows that the brain, although it's energy conservative, it actually expects that you're moving at least a moderate amount.
Mhm.
And it sets your hunger dial to be as if you're moving a moderate amount, which is why it's so difficult to maintain our weight when we're not moving. For
Mm.
example, like even just, a lot of people think about that, it makes it more difficult. And that's just, I see that, weight maintenance as like an added bonus to the mental health piece of movement. But
Well, yeah. I
just
mean,
to put it in perspective, that the brain's expecting you to move that much, so much that it does the hunger dial to moderate. It doesn't have a low hunger dial setting. It has a moderate level. That's as low as it goes.
well, that makes sense, right? Like, and sometimes, like, it's crazy the way we think of ourselves. Like, if we're a dog owner, we know that we have to walk our dog every day,
Mhm.
that a dog is a mammal that needs exercise, like every day needs to go for a walk. But yet we think, like, with humans, like, we just don't need that. Like, that
I
doesn't make
know.
any sense, right? Um,
Yeah, and maybe it comes back to the self-care piece, right? Like we love our dog. Our dog needs us. Our dog needs to walk, and it's caring for somebody else rather than putting that self-care back to
yeah,
ourselves. Yeah.
it's that
So, mhm,
nefarious
mm,
martyr
mm.
piece, right? That selflessness is the best thing ever. Right? No, wrong.
No, wrong. Who came up with that anyway?
Some someone, some men, I think, in a
Some old
patriarchal
man.
culture decided
Some
that
old
like
man.
women should be very selfless.
Yeah.
Well, this is fascinating, Jennifer. This is um, so helpful, I think. I'm so glad you're like my first like exercise person to come on the Mindful Mama podcast. Yay! Like 300 plus episodes. It's so funny. Yeah, I really appreciate your approach because you're just, it's about all of our life, right? It's not
Mhm.
about just like how we look. It's, how we feel, how we think, how we are going to age, how our, it's vital to everything. Like we are beings that evolve to move. We got to do it.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you so much for writing your book, Move the Body, Heal the Mind. You can find it anywhere books are sold. And where can the listener find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I have a website, Jennifer Heisz, Heisz or Z, depending on the part of the world you're in, .com. So jenniferheisz.com, that's my name. And you'll find links to some of the Ironman videos there. You'll see my family and friends cheering me on in the solo Ironman. And it links also to my lab website where you can learn about the research that we do that I cover in the book.
Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your time, for doing this work, for adding your voice to this conversation. I think it's so valuable, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Janla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.